An idea born out of Monday morning chats at the coffee machine. In this series, we chat to our guests about their going out experiences and how it shaped them.
Join us, Pippa
and Georgia,
team members at Skiddle who love going out and miss chatting about it. Hey Georgia.
Hello.
Welcome
it sounds
back.
like you're going to interview me.
That's what season... No. Today we're joined by Yousef, and many of you will know his name recently from hosting and planning and playing the UK's first dance.
Yeah, the government pilot scheme, which happened recently. And we also... We just thought he would be the perfect first guest for Series 3. He obviously did the pilot event. It's May 17th today, and... we're all just kind of looking forward to the future, feeling really positive, and he's kind of been at the forefront of everything that's been happening recently in terms of like clubbing events.
Yeah.
So, we thought it would be great to hear more about his first going out experiences, growing up in Crosby, going out in Liverpool in the 90s, and what it actually felt like being a part of the government pilot scheme.
And it sounded amazing.
Yeah.
Emotional, goosebumps, tears. Everything.
Yeah, some potential tears, yeah. So enjoy the podcast episode. We're really happy to be back.
And hopefully more positive stories coming out of all these conversations now that everything's starting to open up again.
Exactly. Enjoy. Welcome to Yousef, DJ, promoter, producer, record label owner, to the Going Out podcast.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming
thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I feel like I had a bit of a brainwave last week. Like, we were just thinking about how could we start off Series 3 in the best way.
And who better?
And I feel like who better to speak to than you, who's been basically at the forefront of
the reopen.
Yeah, clubbing culture the last few weeks especially. So we can't wait to kind of pick your brains a bit about that.
You.
So we basically just want to find out more about your first going out experiences.
We usually start at the beginning, at like the first going out experiences for our guests.
So you grew up in...
the very beginning. Like,
yeah.
You know.
It's always good to hear.
Not like going to like Wacky Warehouse or going to the park, but like maybe a bit later on.
Swinging on everyone.
Yeah.
Swing to the park.
No, I can remember trying to get into this pub in Crosby, Liverpool, where I used to live, called the George. Well, it was abbreviated to the G at one point. Like,
Ooh, wow.
we thought we were super cool, but really, I was 14 with like long hair, and I managed to summon 5 English pounds together, and then we just went there and somehow clothing like enormous coats and loads of jewellery. It looked absolutely ridiculous.
Is that in an attempt to like look of age kind of thing?
Yeah.
Look older.
I didn't look old at all, but we did manage to get in though successfully, and for some reason after my 4th drink, which even to this day isn't too much for me, I managed to sing Unchained Melody to some girl, and then left the G hand in hand with a lady. So overall, successful.
Very successful.
Yeah, that's a great first experience.
A bit of romance. Yeah.
Yeah, well, probably not.
That's amazing.
And then what were they kind of playing music in there, or was that something that came along like further down the line? Or
no, the George was just kind of, it was almost like a teen scene pub. You know, I think that the local authorities were fully aware that it was full of underages, but it was just easier to keep everybody in there than let them kind of wander the streets. And I think it was just like a necessary evil. But it was fun. You know, we went there for years, and it wasn't music based at all. Although I did end up DJing in there once when one of my first ever gigs. My friend was a DJ, this guy called Franny. What up, Franny, if you're listening? And I managed to put a few tunes on, and it was interesting. I remember they said, it's just, when you play, it's just different. The room just comes alive. What is it? I was like, I don't know. I've been playing for a year, but even then it seemed to kind of have a bit of a knack, you know. But it was good. It was good fun. Fun.
How old were you then when you went back to DJ then? Was that like a bit of a weird experience going back as a DJ?
Oh, no. It wasn't had to do a proper gig. I was only like 18, so I was probably way too old for that place at that point. Something, maybe 18 or 19, but you know, we'd still pop in every now and again and, you know, sing Unchained Melody and have 4 pints. And
then obviously growing up near Liverpool, there must have been a huge music scene, obviously, when you were growing up. So what kind of places would you start going out to later on down the line?
The first kind of like acid house then I got sucked into was this place, which is directly almost opposite Bramley-Moore Dock. It's not there anymore. You would go on a Friday night, and it was the first place almost in Liverpool, give or take, to play acid house and kind of early rave, and it was magical. I mean, point, but it was the like kind of archetypal rave culture where you're from, what's your name, what you had, all that stuff, and it was great. And they would just play anthems, and I loved it. And it was the opposite of going to the pub and feeling a little bit unsure of yourself. And is this going to go a bit rowdy? We're going to have a fight, or all that type of stuff. You go in there, and it was the opposite. It was really inclusive, and that ethos has never left me, trying to make people feel included. And it was because of that weird place called Bonkers. In fact, only last year we were looking for kind of a place to do after parties after Bramley-Moore Dock. So I went over on the off chance, but it's now some weird art gallery or something. But
no, that's weird. So sad.
And what artists were you listening to back then, going to see at those places like Bonkers?
Well, yeah, I mean, once I started kind of traveling around the country, even locally, some DJ called, what's his name, Carl Cox. Might have heard of him.
Maybe.
Rings a bell.
Yeah, but he used to do these like Tuesday nights at a place called Fallows in Aintree, and like it's in a rough industrial state, but it was the heartbeat of rave in Liverpool for a long time, with him and DJ Psy and Top Buzz and early sets from The Prodigy and Enjoy and all these people on a Tuesday night. And I don't forget the flyer, safe price, £4.
Nice.
That's what it literally said. It said that on the flyer, safe price.
And you still remembered it.
We came across some Skiddle flyers from back in the day that Rich and Ben used to put out. Some of them were weird, weren't they? Like old school flyers are like so interesting to look at.
But it was all about kind of expanding your mind and all that stuff back then, and you're just pulling all these kind of weird Salvador Dali style images, and bringing it all together. But it was great. I used to go to those raves in the full acid house outfit, the big baggy orange trousers and the hoodie and the kind of African pendants and everything. It was real. Couldn't have been more of a cliche. Loved it.
Yeah.
Will you ever bring them back out for another night, or are they retired? Yeah. Ta-da. Never take them off.
Exactly. Well, I got them, and there's this place in Liverpool famously called St. John's Market, and it sells kind of just off the beaten track, low versions of what you might get in a good shop. And that's where I got them from, for like 20 quid, which for me then was like, it may as well have been £1 million. The fact that I had 20 quid to spend on clothes was big news for me.
Fashion's always such a big part of a night out, isn't it? Like we spoke to Mark from Salado, the first episode, and he said he used to go out with like a high vis like jacket on.
You know what? He needs one of them again, in fairness. For safety from everybody else.
Yeah. So he's like,
literally
designated everyone.
And then Cream started in Liverpool, right? So was that part of where you were going out back in the day, or?
Yeah. I mean, because what happened was, the rave culture went very quickly candy rave, and as in these kind of like crappy versions of acid house records were making their way onto kind of mainstream radio. And it went cool at all. It got very corny very quickly. So Cream opened as kind of an antithesis of all that. In fact, they were already doing nights to do 5-1 in Liverpool, bringing people like Frankie Knuckles and Dave Morales and stuff to do 5-1. Actually went to the first birthday, but then Cream opened in the Annie, and the whole ethos of it was to kind of, you had to look well dressed, listen to much cooler music, and you went in and it was exactly that. It was the total opposite of like the candy rave, and the way it had gone, and people were a lot cooler, much more multicultural, much more kind of multi-sexual and everything that you would expect, and it was literally the coolest place. With that and the bar in Liverpool were kind of the standing on their own at the time.
Yeah, it's grown into such a huge, I mean, they've obviously got Creamfields institution. Yeah, it must have been so interesting to see that kind of growth and journey. I suppose similar to your own brand, really.
Well, I guess in some ways, but I think because Cream were at the very, very beginning on being able to kind of put 3,000 people in, well, because it went from the annex to the annex and the main room in the academy over quite a short period. So it went from kind of 500 people to 3,000. And they were doing that weekly for years. You know, if you put into context, we do Bramley Moor Dock for around 3,000 people once every month, 6 weeks. Cream did it every week for years and years and years and years and years and years. But yeah, it was amazing in Cream. You know, that kind of rave ethos of people just being twisted, listening to amazing music, definitely bled into the coolness, if you like. So it was a kind of a range of things, but yeah, it meant a lot to a lot of people, Cream did, including myself.
Yeah, and still does.
Yeah.
Well, I got the resident because after going there every week for 7 years, eventually my DJ career started properly after practicing, and then I got the call up to be the resident because I knew that club as well as anybody, and I knew the annex was better as well as anybody. So to get the call up, I was like, wow.
God, what must that have felt like? Like you being on the other side of kind of the music as such.
Yeah, it was at the time it felt like a real achievement, and it was because I fantasized about it, as in like almost like manifested it. And I'm not kind of like one of the comedy spiritual guys like at all, but I couldn't sleep sometimes because I used to think about being resident of Cream that much.
Wow.
And I would think about how I'm going to use these kind of, because they got the whole club renovated by this guy called Steve Dash. He put an amazing sound system in and renovated the turntables and everything and made it the most, other than Ministry, the most advanced clubbing space in the whole of the UK. It was incredible. And as a regular, I'd be like, what am I going to do when I'm going to play on these decks? And they're sprung mounted and it's got a rotary mixer. Bear in mind, it was just in my mind. They had no idea that I wanted to do it. They probably didn't even know I was a DJ, and I couldn't sleep for weeks thinking about it. And then I had this kind of almost premonition that they were going to come to me in this particular bar and ask me to be the resident, and they did.
Oh my
that's mad.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was in the Lyceum bar in the bottom of Bold Street. I used to think it's going to happen, and I'm going to have to figure out how to use a sprung mounted Steve Dash decks, and it happened.
That is insane.
So
I've said this before, but it did happen, yeah.
How did they know like you were you, or like you were the DJ, or how did that come about?
Well, prior to me getting the residency offer, I'd won this DJ competition in a magazine called Music, and it was like a really prominent DJ competition at the time. They had like 2,000 entries every month, and James Abela won it as well over a couple of years later. And it kind of catapulted me into a position where I was suddenly getting gigs. I got an amazing, really significant gig at Pasha in Ibiza when I tore the place to shreds. And I just thought that was just normal, and then I got an agent, and then I got offered gigs at Ministry of Sound and then Renaissance. And I was simultaneously the resident at Ministry and Renaissance suddenly. And then Cream came in and said, do you want to be resident here? Knowing that I'd say yes. So that's kind of how things progressed in a shorter version of the story. But yeah, and I started playing there every week for 6 hours in the annex.
Wow.
So when kind of like, I thought I was going to be the warm-up guy, but like, no, when you should play start to finish. And so it taught me, this is the interesting thing about being a kind of a DJ in your bedroom to being a pro DJ, is when you start in the clubs, you almost have to start again. You could be a master in your bedroom and doing all tricks and all these things, but really you have to kind of almost re-earn your stripes. It's really interesting.
Yeah, is that what is it because you might be a bit nervous, or is it just completely different playing in front of a crowd because you kind of have to like see how the crowd are vibing?
Like they're such a big factor in it almost.
There's all sorts of little idiosyncrasies that you have to take in. Maybe the sound, there could be something wrong with one of the mixer, the doorman could have been in a mood when you come in. Your records at the time might be like dusty, or there's a record that you really want to play and doesn't work. Maybe it's an MP3 and it should be a WAV. All these things that you have to kind of be ready for. But above everything, DJing will always be about only two things. It doesn't matter how skillful you are, because I'm quite a technical guy, but over the years you kind of realize it's just about great music in the right order. It doesn't change.
So it sounds so simple when you put it like that.
Well, but you have to kind of feel out the room.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like almost take in other people's moods and personal. It's very psychological.
Yeah. So to what extent do you pre-plan? Does it always go to that plan, or is it like you do sometimes, or do you always kind of wing it?
I don't pre-plan at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I the only thing I do is make sure I've got a stack of new music music that I really am excited to play. And that kind of carries me down a journey, if you like. And obviously my absolute priority when I'm DJing is to make sure that I rock it and the people in front of me have a good time, and I give them the respect that they deserve. And what I mean by that is most of the audience would have worked all week to buy a ticket, and you've got to give them a good time, because I suppose the tag phrase from Circus the whole time has been entertainment and enlightenment, and that kind of comes from my ethos of being a DJ. I want people to have a good time, listen to new music. So it's my job to kind of entertain them, and shove new tracks down their throat at the same time.
Yeah, and then
I'm not into just playing the hits. It's too easy.
Yeah. And then so you're always on the lookout for new music, so you're always getting sent new stuff. Is that what you're doing on a continuous basis until you play the next event?
Yeah, of course, because obviously I run Circus Recordings, so I've got an abundance of amazing records, like, a year in advance, really, sometimes. So coupled with that, with the hundreds of promos I get sent a week, and I kind of managed to get through some, then all my kind of like DJ mates, producer mates, like, will send me special edits and tracks and all these bits and pieces. So I take from all them what makes me feel the best.
Yeah.
As in, do these records make me feel good, rather than kind of, I'm not really into records that are functional. Does it make me feel something? And then I'll kind of have to, at that point, if it makes me feel something but it's too long, or it's got drags on a bit, or maybe it's not long enough, then I'll make some edits to make it my own version, and then I'll play it, and hopefully it'll work.
Sounds, again, very simple, but I'm just not. Woo.
No, it's not simple. That's all. It's quite the opposite, because again, all the kind of nuances is the bit that you can only pick up over time. Yeah. Because even the mix down on a record, the sonic finish on it is the difference between you rocking it and not. So it's really important to me that every record that, like, I get sent demos all the time, and I say to the producers that usually newer guys, look, it's an amazing track, but don't be afraid to go and get it mixed down by somebody else, because you'll make your good idea into something that might be remembered in years to come.
Yeah.
Do it.
Obviously, back in the day, people weren't sending you MP3s or WAVs or whatever over emails or through press lists or whatever. So where were you going out to get your new music? Assuming record stores and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I go to 3Beat in Liverpool, when it used to be called 3Beat, what was the central point, or Play Music in Leeds, which is more house-based, or maybe 23rd Precinct in Glasgow, or Eastern Bloc in Manchester. Yeah. And you'd make these pilgrimages just to go and get 2 or 3 tunes. But then, because things started, I went from like 6 years of DJing to nobody to suddenly DJing to lots of people. And then I got given a residency on Radio 1. So I was on Radio 1 for 3 years as well. So I was suddenly getting like a stack, like, those big post office sacks that you see, the big grey ones. Yeah. I would get a full one of them every week, and with usually stuck with 10 or 15 dub plates, like acetates as well, of all these new things. So it's like a full-time job to keep up at the time. So yeah, I've never struggled for music, and actually I like record shopping, but I've never been one of those guys that likes to sit there all day trying to find that one tune. I like to get in, find records that I like, and then leave. That's why I really enjoy it now, because I can get music from anywhere and then edit it to suit me, rather than kind of think, well, I like a bit of that, but I don't like a bit of that. Some of the record isn't for me and all those stuff. So I like to make my own versions almost every set.
Yeah. Yeah, you sound like, you are such a music enthusiast. And is that kind of the reason why you've got so many different hats of your career almost? You're kind of the producer, the record label owner, and all these like other hats that come with it. Is that fueled by a love and passion for music?
Well, I think it's fueled by love and passion for DJing as such. Yeah. Because that's the thing I like to do the most. It's definitely the thing I'm best at. And it's the audience interaction that I really connect with. I have to feed off the audience. But if you're not being a reasonable producer, or doing your own events, or doing a record label, or as I put it, contributing to the scene, if you're just taken out, you're going to run out. So you have to keep on contributing to the scene to kind of sustain the one thing that you really love to do. Now, over the years, I almost fell in love with making music properly. Okay, I like to do that. And it's the same feeling I used to have when I used to go to college. I'd sack off to go home and play on the decks. and I have that feeling like, I want to go and play in the studio, and so that connected with me. And it took me a long time to kind of connect with doing the circus events, in terms of I had a bit of a resistance to being a booker and booking on the mates, because I do a high percentage of the DJ bookings, always have. So I was a bit resistant to kind of picking up the phone to the agents, and not being a DJ artist person and having to be. But over time, I really enjoy that too, and it's become like an additional skill set that's led me in good stead to do other things. And again, with running a record label, it was out of necessity, because I was making this music and then sending it to a record label, and then may or may not sign it. And if they do sign it, it's going to come out in like 3,000 years, and it's going to be this. And I'm like, God's sake, So it's like, okay, if you want something done, well, I've always been resourceful, so like let's just do it myself and see how we get on. And it's full on, trying to do everything at once, especially with all the other stuff and worky stuff I'm doing at the moment. I'm having 2 young children too, so yeah, man.
Busy.
It sounds busy.
Yeah.
I suppose booking in itself is quite a craft, isn't it? Because you have to kind of gauge, obviously, who your audience is, but also like who's new and what's upcoming, and like who's bubbling up. So how have you found that over the years? Has there been any times where you're like, oh, I've nailed this, or like where you've been a bit like, oh God, I shouldn't have done this, or because they're the good stories.
Yeah, a combination of both, but I would say overall it's gone quite well, because I've got Richard McGuinness, who's my best mate and business partner, and like he's like a proper rave scientist. So between us, we kind of work towards what it could be the best, because we've always wanted to kind of do new music and push it forward, but with a clear air of reality. We've never gone super noodles on what we do with Circus, because it's risky enough anyway.
Yeah.
But because I've got the label, and because I'm getting these dub plates way in advance, because I've got these connections to like most DJs around the world and their kind of labels, and I'm seeing things that are coming through a year in advance. Sometimes like, okay, this guy's got 2 remixes coming on, say, Reboot's label at this date, and I can see it's starting to connect over here, and this person's playing this tune, so I can see what's happening because I'm on the road in real time, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, some people just suddenly show up and like, shit, I have no idea who that person is, and they're suddenly massive. But that's maybe because that's just the way it is these days, because the social media these days can be like alarming. But overall, lovely. Who's around at the moment, or is kind of bubbling up that you can see or are
and
aware
you're excited
of?
about?
Yeah, well, I'd say there's like a real range of people. It was great having like the first answer that we got a real mix of people as well, a real range of society, if you like.
Yeah,
it was good to have Jaguar on as well as a first time, because she's super cool. I met her in Jersey a few years ago, and she just ran up to me when I was DJing, and she goes, "Hi, I'm Jaguar. I work for Mixmag." And she's like, I brought it up the other day when I seen her, and she was like, "Oh, something you never say that again." But sorry for making it public. But she's super cool. And even more locally, James Organ. He's really coming through, because again, he works for us at Circus, and he's pretty shifting, and he was like an intern, and he's built his way up. But again, he's a really accomplished producer now. He's got a great studio at home, and he's very self-sufficient. He's quite a bookworm, and he's a quite intellectual guy as well. So he puts the shift in.
Yeah.
So it's good to see him coming through. And of course, shout out to Lewis Boardman too. That's been with us forever. And he's reignited his love for making music more recently. And it's good. It's good to see people are just excited about the music as I clearly am.
Yeah. The lineup, we will talk about it a little later on.
I'm itching to talk about it.
But with the pilot, it was obviously a huge lineup with the likes of Fatboy Slim, Bless Madonna, and
Jada
so many, Jada G.
The list goes on.
And so I was interested to know, were they just like absolutely itching to get out? How did it work? Did you have like a kind of curated list of people that you wanted to come, or is it just people who are like kind of like banging your door down, like, let me come and play?
Well, it was a combination of both, really. We wanted firstly, everyone that had to live in the UK, which was important for obvious reasons. Everyone had to be like a UK resident, and also we knew the world spotlight was going to be on us. Maybe not that much of the spotlight. It was berserk. There's been like over 7 billion engagements now on just on those events. So with that in mind, with the kind of assurance that people are going to be talking about what we're doing, we're like, okay, we need to make sure that everything we do it's a real range of what CIRCUS does, and also really appropriate to the feeling in the world at the moment as well. We didn't want it just to be years ago or even 5 years, a range of music.
Yeah.
Because obviously Jada G is more of a selector. I think she plays tunes and she has a good time, plays another tune, has a good time. Blessed Madonna kind of really goes at it, but in the end just play like big room disco, and that was great to see. And the Fatboy Slim, he got in touch, his manager got in touch with Rich and said, look, any chance we would love to play? And like, yeah, let's make it work. And we did, and everybody was thrilled to play. All of them, everyone was like so made up, and it was so emotional, especially on the Friday. It just, I can't overstate how it felt, the fact that it was even happening.
Yeah.
And the feedback since has been just crazy.
I saw the video of Lauren Lowe Sung saying that she was crying. Was it like on her first song or something? That must have been mad.
For people who didn't go to the event, I feel like it was emotional anyway. So I can't even imagine what it was like being there and organising it. Wow. Before it was happening, everyone obviously was excited about it on social media or whatever, like people that we knew that were going. And then straight after, TikTok was flooded with videos from the actual event. Yeah. Of people.
And I was like, this is mad, because I feel like on TikTok, everyone's so far away. But it literally was just like around the corner.
No, it was like an unbelievable effort to make it even happen, because I'd been knocking down on the door of Liverpool Council suggesting, look, surely there's got to be some sort of events happening at some point in some way. What's the story? Is it going to be test events or whatever I called them months and months ago? And then Rich was speaking to them too, and then it didn't come to anything at all. And then about 4 weeks before the event, they suddenly they got in touch and was like, yeah, we've had the nod from central government, from Health and Safety England, Health England, to say that the R rate or the rate was 1 in 500, which is the trigger point to be able to kind of do safe events. So they said, do you want to do it? You've got 3.5 weeks. And we're like, yeah, no worries, let's crack on. Thinking, okay, just put an event together. 3.5 weeks, yeah, no problem. I'm sure the appetite for tickets is going to be there, but we obviously all the risk is on our shoulders as well, economically. So we just went for it, got our amazing production guy, Sam Newson, and our amazing health and safety guy, Eddie, to kind of come together. That was the easy part. Now, I've said this a few times, but getting a kind of balance between the requirements of Liverpool Council, their health and safety, the scientists in central government, the scientists in Liverpool, all these kind of other moving target variables on a day-to-day basis, which we're kind of moving left to right. But I have to say, everybody that was on this, we had these calls every day at 4:30. Everybody was super cool, super helpful, wanted to move forward, was reasonable. That they took our point of view on board, and we just moved forward day to day to get closer to be able to do it. Now, obviously trying to sell tickets, book the lineup, market it, deal with a few kind of less than positive responses and stuff like that. But overall, the fact that it even happened was such a gargantuan effort for literally hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And, it was unbelievable. Playing that first record, because I played the first hour as well. So playing that first record, and when it started, people were like, it's happening.
Yeah. Wow.
And then people started coming in and literally screaming in the middle of the dance floor on their own, shouting, thank you, and all that.
Oh my God, I've just got goosebumps.
That makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Honestly, one girl gave me a thank you card.
Oh.
And I was
that's so nice.
And she explained and all those things, what she'd had how a year had been, and wanted to say thank you for trying so hard and all those things. I'm trying to DJ, and it's like, oh shit. So yeah, that was emotional. But again, after my first hour, Lauren came on. Mm-hmm. And by that point, quite a number of people had come in. And then she's playing her first record, which was kind of a Detroity, cinematic intro. And she was trying to reel people in 14 months properly. And then people come in and started kind of screaming and shouting and Lauren. And she just went, boom.
Oh.
And she just burst into tears, and and it was such a release for her,
Yeah.
and it was one of many emotional moments that day.
Yeah, because I think from like an audience point of view, you forget that for a DJ, that's your life, that's your career, and if you're not doing it for so long, how much that actually means when you can be back with everyone, like from our point of view on a dance floor, but also like playing music, like just such a void for so long.
Well, if it's something that you've literally dedicated your life to up to that moment, and it's been taken away, and all the kind of bits and pieces that come with it, like your kind of social circle, your income, your mental stability in a lot of ways, your self-esteem, all those things have been kind of taken out of the equation. They were all put back temporarily that weekend, so it's a lot to kind of absorb in one moment. So when Laura, when she played her first tune, it was great. It was so good. Yeah.
What were like your like personal nerves back? Did you feel really nervous for like stepping back out there for the first time in a while? Or did it all just feel like you'd never been away? Well,
because I played the first hour, I suppose I had the buffer of kind of getting back into the groove. I'm playing the first tune was nice, and I need to do something with that record because I made it 10 years ago. It's called Welcome to the World, and I just thought, and I've never played it anywhere else before. And it's been sitting on my hard drive for 10 years, and it's a beautiful kind of like guitar-based, elegant record that has never been played anywhere before or since. So I should do something with it. So it was nice to play that and hear it out, and then I kind of just played some deepness for an hour. But later on, I'm sure you've seen the videos, when I had to kind of step up and do the full show bit. I was surprisingly okay. Yeah, I was kind of ready for it. I suppose I was buzzed up.
Yeah. Was it you who played You're Free?
Yeah.
I saw so many videos from that.
That was
it was epic.
To see everyone screaming along.
I know, I felt like I was glued to social media that weekend, just looking for any new videos that were popping up to just see like a different angle of the lineup or whatever. It was amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe that moment. I was just like, wow, because it was such a release, and obviously lyrically it was a perfect record. Even the verse leading into chorus, what it says, and all those things. And I'd made this kind of interesting little edit before that to kind of have a journey to that moment. So it was powerful.
Yeah,
and it's going to be the most watched moment of my DJ career. It's had like, I don't know how many tens of millions of views and all that, but it's crazy.
Yeah, it's literally history. Like literally everyone will remember it forever.
Was the vibe like exactly the same from Friday to Saturday, or did it start getting emotional again towards the end of the Saturday night where you're like, oh, this ends now?
Oh no, I was stunning by the end. Because
must have been shattered.
Because my Friday, one thing I've not really mentioned, it wasn't like I played the first record and that was cool, and then I had 5 hours off until 7:30. When I started again, I had to do one interview after the other, and 15-minute slots right up until I started my interviews that day at 6 a.m, and I finished them at 10:15 at night in between DJing, and I didn't do anything else. So it was exhausting, and I had to keep on reminding myself, this is going to fall off a cliff on Monday ish. Well, I didn't actually in the end, but I thought it was just going to switch off. But and the people I was speaking to was like obviously like the New York Times, Bloomberg, obviously the New Yorker, Radio 4 Today program. And the reason I mention them is because they're so far removed from what we do. And on top of, Granada, ITV, Channel 4, BBC, every major news outlet, CNN, Matt Bonkers. But again, it started to really dawn on me throughout the day that this is a proper global news story here.
Yeah, and also kind of like a positive one as well, which is kind of a nice break from all kind of... Because am I right in thinking that you had a conversation with Prince William during kind of... I remember seeing it on your Twitter, and that must have been a really emotional conversation. So it must be nice for you to kind of speak about things reopening and like the positive side of everything.
Well, yeah, I guess even that was kind of a bit of a curveball, because I put out that Instagram post a while ago, and it was just like, okay, I don't like to swear too much, but I just went, fuck this. I'm not having it. Our whole industry's been left behind here, and I've got air in my lungs and I've got strength in my arms. I'm going to go out, kick some doors in and see what the story is, because everyone has been left behind economically, which is leading to all sorts of problems, never mind just kind of being skint. So I kind of put a course to action, if you like, and then within 2 weeks I'd been invited to speak to Prince William.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I've never seen that one coming. But the reason was because Liverpool was having such a tough time and it had been placed into tier 4 earlier than the rest of the country. So it was being treated disproportionately unfair, as a lot of people might agree. So given his due, Prince William had found out that and wanted to speak to someone in Liverpool that maybe have had a viewpoint on it. And they, for some reason, asked me. I was like, okay. And there was Natalie as well from Leaf. So just the two of us thought we were going to be like, 5-minute, you go for script, blah, 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 move on. The next, kind of the handshakes you see at the movie premieres and stuff. All that. But it wasn't at all. We were expecting to, one thing I said to the palace just before we started was like, look, what's the protocol? What's the, what do we say? How do we treat him? And they're like, the only thing you've got to do is just give it to him. Don't hold back. You just the way it is. He doesn't want no sugarcoating. Just say how it is. It's like, great. So we did, and we thought a 5-minute conversation was going to be maybe 10 or 15, and it was like 45 minutes in the end. And he wasn't on script at all, and he gave a shit. So some of the things that we mentioned during the conversation, he took to government literally the next day, and like to think move things along. I don't know, because he's not allowed to say and all those things. But I did invite him to the first dance.
Imagine.
I did. I emailed the palace because I've got his secretary's email address and said, look, I'm just letting you know from the conversation we had all those months ago, and I said, if anything comes of it, I will invite you, and you probably can't come, but here it is.
Imagine Yousef B2B Prince William.
It would have been, I remember doing shots dealing with him, but in fairness, it was his 10th wedding anniversary the same day.
If it hadn't have been his anniversary,
rain check though, maybe a future one, maybe just when you're back open.
But he was cool, and I like to think he was helpful. Whatever it was, the whole path led to the first dance.
So the reason that Liverpool was the home to the pilot events was because of the R rate?
No, it was because largely when Liverpool was given the opportunity to be the city with mass testing, the first in the country, which went unbelievably well. And Liverpool, kind of the facilities in the city and the people of the city showed that they were able to kind of do mass testing really kind of efficiently and effectively, and it couldn't have been more successful. So I think that it was a follow-on from that. Okay, you've proved that you can handle this. Would you like to? And again, because of the R rate, I'm not too sure if it was just in Liverpool or nationwide, but because Health England decided it was fine, that's when the city got the nod.
I feel like it's been the most positive episode that we've had, because we've more or less, I'd say not in a negative way, but kind of dwelled on how the pandemic's made us feel,
we've recorded,
which is obviously a huge part of everyone's lives, but this has felt like the most forward thinking.
You're right, because
positive.
We've been in lockdown for most of the other episodes. I feel like we didn't really have a light at the end of the tunnel, but this has actually been really nice.
And we've not even mentioned that obviously today is May 17th. This will come out next week, but how are you feeling about today? Like, what have you got, any plans? Like, what are you doing? You're gonna eat indoors?
I'm too busy to even realise the day is. I'm going up for a pint. I'd love to, at some point maybe it will, but who knows? But I think it's great that hospitality can finally maybe earn some proper money. Because it's been so hard for so many people. They've been so patient and they've delivered on like nobody else has. So it's great that I can get back to business. So I'm wishing the best of luck. So with that in mind, I will go for a pint.
Inside though. Me. You have to go inside, otherwise it won't feel any different to the last few weeks. Not that that's a bad thing. You can still go for a pint, but
just not in the pouring rain.
It's been ridiculous. I know it's been hard to see, because I live in Manchester, following a lot of people on Instagram, like restaurants and stuff, saying, we have to close today because of the the weather, and it's like, you know, this thing's I know that there's a road mat's there for a reason, but it's hard to think, you know, I can go inside next week, but I can't now. So it's always a bit like, oh, but there's a reason for the rules.
I think we just have to overall be patient with it. And I think I might have had a slightly different viewpoint on that before the first dance, but having to like speak directly with these unbelievably skilled and experienced and knowledgeable scientists who know their shit like nobody else does, and you have to trust them. So that's what I've learned to do.
Are you allowed to talk about the results? What was the results?
We don't have them back yet, or rather they've not been handed over just yet, but you know, I have to say, as far as I understand, June 21st is looking very, very optimistic, as in like it'll be cool.
Wow.
What have you got planned post then? Tell us more about what CIRCUS has planned.
What's on the radar?
Planned.
We've got all sorts. We've got obviously the sold out Sasha one at the Invisible Wind Factory, and then we've got I'm going to do. Well, as soon as the roadmap got announced, I was like, okay, even though at that point I'd not earned any money from like over a year, I wanted to do my first gig back at the Arts Club, which was the spiritual home of CIRCUS, where we started, and do it for all the income to go to the NHS and other local charities. So that's what I did on July the 10th, and it sold out in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Which is
that's
fantastic.
Crazy.
So it's great because I've got quite a what's going to go to Alder Hay Hospital, because for personal reasons for myself, I was in there as a kid, which was a different story than my daughter was in there, and they saved her life twice.
Wow.
So they had to be them. So we're doing that, and then there's a couple of El Row parties, and then a few things we're about to announce in July and August, which are not to be missed, shall we say?
Yes, we like that phrase at Skiddle, not to be missed. Don't miss out.
But we've got lots going on, and then, you know, what else is going on for me? I'm still on a kind of separate crusade, you know, even though we've got the events hopefully happening again, but I'm trying to put a flag in the sand. In fact, I'm not trying to. I'm putting a flag in the sand with me and a few others to kind of get our industry recognised by government. Because they don't get it. They don't understand anything about the kind of 30-year plus history of electronic music around the world and in the UK. They essentially don't understand the difference between Dave Doubledecks and the local boozer and, say, the Prodigy. You know? So I'm cultivating this understanding so they will, for the rest of eternity, know that we are kind of meant to be taken a lot more seriously and handled with, you know, as a cultural body, just like any of the other arts. So that's another thing I've been doing simultaneously as the first dance as well.
That's amazing, and something definitely, because I feel like that was quite clear in the last 18 months that what like electronic music wasn't considered as part of the arts and culture section as much as
it was
other
like
sectors.
You know, theatres can do this, but they don't really understand that this kind of music is part.
No, I thought that too, you know, and you know, you probably, if you go back through my Instagram, I use those words too. Forgotten about, they don't give a shit, but it wasn't that. They just don't understand. They don't know, because there's never been anyone to kind of channel that information directly from us to them. There's no one in between. I'm not saying that's going to be me, but someone needs to kind of have that kind of dialogue with them, and that's the next challenge.
So it's just communication, and you learn from other parties by speaking about it. So that's great. That's something we can look forward to seeing.
Well, I'm going to be asking for everybody's help. Well, everyone that works in the industry has got to put a shift in on this one. Everyone.
We'll do that.
For sure.
We'll do anything we will.
Well, it's been a bit difficult, hasn't it? Our Skiddles obviously wouldn't be anything without the promoters that put on the listings, and it's been a crazy time. But I think you've made a good point in the sense that like the work doesn't stop here, like it has to continue forward. Because I think whilst we were in the depths of like lockdown and the pandemic, we were like, oh, they don't recognise us, and now it might have fallen a little bit to the back of some people's minds in the sense of the people that might attend the events, because they're just looking forward to like June 21st. I just want to get out, but like the work has to continue, and they have to help lobby for this kind of change, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very much on it, believe me, and I think like I say, not going in with a kind of like a negative. It's like shouting at a kid.
Yeah.
You know, even go in and sit down and explain and why, you know, that they should maybe think of a different way or give you a viewpoint. The kids, well, I'm going to say that they usually listen, but mine don't. But
but in theory, they do.
They might listen. They might just pretend they don't.
But the point is, you know, when you're speaking to, it's not just like it's cross-party MPs as well. You know, their allegiances are relevant. When you're speaking to them, just trying to explain your point of view with more eloquence lasts a lot longer.
Yeah.
I find.
There was some really helpful resources as well, like with NTIA, they did like a Write to Your MP thing. I remember doing that a couple of times over lockdown. So I feel like those kinds of resources to like the general public, so that they could kind of, some people don't really know what to say. Those resources have been really helpful. So more of those. Too. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're definitely. I was speaking to Michael Kill from the NTIA only like an hour ago, and he's become like a real kind of ally when we're working together, trying to kind of help whoever we can help. And it's been helping other people for me over the last like 10-12 months has kept the walls from the door. You know, as in like it's kept my self-esteem up, and you know, having a purpose. Yeah, really. But I'm keeping that going. You know, I'm going to kind of suddenly put my headphones back on and see you in a bit. Really enjoyed it, so I'm going to keep it as part of what I do.
Yeah,
good, exciting.
That's fab. Shall we ask our final question?
Yeah, you can ask this time.
So we ask all our guests, if you could go on a night out with anyone, anywhere, where would it be, and who would you go with? They can be dead or alive.
Just to make it,
just to make it that little bit simpler.
Well, it's a really, really hard question, but. You know what? I have to admit, if it's an imaginary thing, I'd love to go out with my daughter and son when they're both over age.
Oh,
yeah.
That's probably the most heartwarming answer I've had.
Yeah, if I could go, I'd go out with them too, and to see what they're like when they're adults.
That's amazing. I mean, with your manifesting skills, like you could have said anything there.
Only 7 and 3, so there's quite a while to go. But yeah, I would like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
I suppose nothing will really get past you. Like you really have been and done like all the clubbing, like living the clubbing life. So I suppose who better to understand than you? So do they DJ, or do they have an interest in any kind of music, or is that something they're just like, oh, Dad does that?
To summarise it, I had the hottest record in the world on Annie Back a while ago, and I went up to Theo, my son. I said, son, look, I'm on BBC Radio 1. Do you want to listen? And he just goes, I'm not bothered.
I'm sure when he's
some of the videos recently though, especially the Ultra Nate one with the kind of the confetti and all that stuff, they like the confetti. To step in the right direction.
Maybe if Circus had like a bouncy castle, they'd be a bit more on board.
Precisely. I like that idea. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for chatting with us. We're really excited about like what's to come, and any support that you need from, I mean, us, we'll be there. Skiddle, definitely. So thanks for your time. I know you're really busy, but we've really appreciated you letting us into your life a little bit.
All right, guys, I appreciate it too, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Going Out podcast with Skiddle. Don't forget to like, rate and subscribe wherever you hear this podcast.
Thank you.